Let's look at some other exports. So, of course, if you have something rendered and you have put on lights and everything, you can of course export it to Unity, but there's also other options. For example, you can of course export and render. There are several renderers in Maya itself. One mainly uses nowadays the Arnold renderer, and for that you need special lights. You need Arnold lights. These can be found here, and there's also Arnold shaders and everything. It needs to know how to deal with these lights, so it needs its special shader as well. And there's also has its own render view to go to and to see like how does this look. Since we don't have any Arnold lights or any Arnold anything, you won't see anything, but maybe if we put an area light, for example, and put this to a side. Let's see, the area light is here. Let's put it on 7. It's not very strong, this area light. Let's see if we make it smaller. We could change, of course, what the intensity is and so forth. But then we can see here it's automatically changing also. It's a bit like it would be in Blender, so it's sampling the render. So like that, and we can see the changes in here accordingly. Yeah, that's a beauty pass. You could make all kinds of passes, like a shadow pass, specular highlight pass, and so forth, and you can put them in a compositing program such as After Effects, or even like if you have a still in Photoshop, and compose them accordingly. We won't dive in it this far, but for you just to know that, you don't need to only export a beauty pass. You can export also all kinds of other passes. The render settings, the normal render settings here, there is an Arnold render here, there's a software render, there's a hardware 2.0 render and a vector render. Mostly I'm using Arnold or software, and before I was also using Mental Ray, but it's outdated, it's not supported anymore. So also within that you can, for example in software render, you can say, okay, I want this file to be an exporter with a certain file name, and I want that file to not be a Maya file, but the best files to export to is PNG. It has alpha channel and is very small in size. But if you want all the information still from the file, I would suggest exporting to a Targa file, TGA. That can be read in any other program as well, and has all the information still. So mostly I use TGA files, and when I want to render not just a still image but an animation, I choose then the name, and then this is the hashtag, but that's meaning the numbers, and then an extension, or this one. I think this one is even nicer with the underscore and then number and then extension. And you can say, okay, how many extensions, how many numbers it has. That it's now from 4 digits, and that's probably fine. So it looks like this, and it's now entitled, but I can put a name there, and then save this, and it will take that name. And here, scroll down, I can say, okay, what frame to what frame it will export. So now it's from 1 to 10. And if I have an error with the export, I can already skip the existing frames it has. So never export to something that's in a movie file, for example, because if it crashes, you need to restart the whole thing. And you would like to manipulate still maybe the stills from the render. And you can import a still sequence into Premiere or After Effects or any other compositing program. Then you can say, okay, what camera do I want to use? In this case, we don't really have a renderable camera, so we only have the perspective view, but we can add that one. We can add a renderable camera. And there's alpha channel in the camera, that's also nice to have. Yeah, so, and you can also add a camera, we saw this before, when you want to create a camera from this view, and you can say, okay, I want that camera. The camera now is called perspective 1. Maybe a better name is better, but here it is, and we can name this accordingly, and it will pop up here. Yeah, so only one camera, but we can choose this one now. That's a good renderable camera. Then we can set up the image size, and the image size you probably want to go to watch like full HD nowadays. So in that case, it's 1980 by 1080, or 1920, sorry, by 1080 square pixel. And the resolution, if you don't print, resolution is this. It's for screen, it's fine. If you want to go to print, it's like 300 resolution. Then the amount of pixels will be way more. Yeah, that's about it. There's no more other options that are relevant in this case in here. And in Maya software, the same goes for Blender, of course, and also for the Arnold. You can choose the quality. So last time we chose production quality, which means it's a high quality, and it chooses the amount of shading. It chooses the amount of rays and ray tracing. Oh yeah, ray tracing needs to be put on, of course. And you can say, okay, this is an example like, okay, I have this glass here with ray tracing. If we put, it's now on 10. So if we put on 1, it will only hit the first surface and it will go back to the camera. That's it. Maybe if we need even 2, it just hits and then it doesn't go back. I don't know. But I think it's 2. So it comes back. So the camera sees this outside glass. It's not transparent, it just sees the outside. Then if we want to see the transparency, we need 1. It hits 1 time. Then it hits on the inside, like on the wall on the inside. And it comes out the other side. And then it comes back to the camera. So I think that's already 4 times reflectivity and refraction and so forth, because this glass is also refractive. Then there's substance, which is water in this case. It hits that, and then hits the other side as well. So it's already 2 times refraction again. And then on the other side of this glass, so it hits that and hits that again. So it needs at least, I think, 8 passes through this, or 6. And 10 is then not really overrated, because then this also comes out, and it will hit another surface, right? So caustics from this light will hit another surface, and that might be a glass too. So then you need another pass, and maybe there's liquid inside there as well. So all these are passes, which you can see here on the screen, like reflection, how many passes it has, and refraction and shadow as well. So you can say, okay, most renders 6 is enough, but sometimes, in this case, for example, you need a 10 or 8 at least. Yeah, cheers. So then let's go down. There's motion blur. Yeah, it's very heavy to calculate. Do that maybe in Unity. In here, it's very hard, and I actually never do that in here. Sometimes when I just have the motion blur pass, if I feel like, oh, let's do a motion blur path, but I can do motion blur also in After Effects. It looks less nice, but it does the trick as well. What else do I need to say about this? Yeah, the rest is not really necessary to look at. All right. So this was rendering. So let's move on and look at the next part.